I work from home, and my routine is pretty monotonous. Wake up, coffee, emails, meetings, lunch, more emails, a workout, and then dinner. The day this all happened started just like any other. I remember it vividly because, well, how could I forget? It was a Tuesday. My alarm went off at 7 a.m., and I groggily reached for my phone to silence it. As I shuffled to the kitchen to start my coffee, I noticed my cat, Luna, was acting strange. She was pacing back and forth in front of the window, her tail puffed up. I shrugged it off, thinking she must have seen a bird or something. The morning went on normally enough. I logged into my computer and started my first video meeting of the day. But halfway through, something odd happened. My screen flickered, just for a second, and then everything continued as usual. I didn't think much of it, but as the day progressed, small, unsettling details started to add up. At lunch, I made myself a sandwich and sat down to eat. Out of habit, I reached for my phone to scroll through social media. That's when I noticed a post from my friend Jenna. She'd posted a picture of her breakfast with the caption, "Starting the day right." I remember thinking, wait, she posted this yesterday. I scrolled back through my feed, but there it was, time-stamped with today's date. The rest of the afternoon felt off. My coworker, Steve, sent me the same document he had sent the day before, claiming it was new. I asked him about it, and he insisted he had just finished it that morning. The déjà vu was strong, but I tried to push it aside, chalking it up to stress or lack of sleep. It wasn't until my workout that things really got eerie. I have a small home gym setup in my garage, and I usually listen to podcasts while I exercise. As I started lifting weights, the podcast episode I had listened to the day before started playing. I double-checked my playlist, and it was marked as a new release for today. My heart began to race. I knew I wasn't imagining things now. After my workout, I needed to clear my head. I decided to take a walk around the neighborhood. As I passed by a familiar house, I saw the owner out in the garden, just like yesterday. She waved and said, "Good morning, dear." I froze. This was exactly what she had said the day before, down to the inflection in her voice. I hurried back home, panic setting in. I pulled up my calendar, my emails, everything, trying to find some logical explanation. But all the dates matched up. It was as if Monday had been erased and replaced with another Tuesday. That night, I barely slept. I kept staring at the clock, willing it to move faster, to bring a new day. When my alarm went off the next morning, I hesitated before checking my phone. I took a deep breath and looked at the date. It was Tuesday. Again, I felt like I was losing my mind. I called Jenna, and she answered cheerily, "Hey, what's up?" I asked her what day it was, and she laughed, thinking I was joking. Tuesday? Why?" When I told her about my experience, she sounded confused and a bit concerned. "Are you okay, dude? Maybe you need some rest." I knew I couldn't stay in my house any longer. I packed a bag and left, driving aimlessly for hours, trying to escape the loop. But every road seemed to lead me back home. Every signpost, every landmark was the same. It was like the world had been copied and pasted around me. Now, I'm writing this from a motel room, hundreds of miles away. It's Wednesday here, or at least it should be. I'm scared to look at my phone, scared to see that date again. But I need to know if I've escaped. I take a deep breath, pick up my phone, and unlock it. The screen flashes on, and my heart sinks. It's Tuesday. I've lived in my town for over 20 years, so I know it like the back of my hand. There's a small street downtown, Maple Avenue, where I often went for a morning coffee at my favorite cafe. It's a quaint, picturesque street lined with little shops, all bursting with character. Or at least, it used to be. One Saturday morning, I decided to take a stroll down Maple Avenue. It was a beautiful day, the kind where the sun warms your skin just enough to make you forget the chill in the air. As I walked, I noticed something odd. The street was empty, not just of people, but of everything. The shops, the cafe, the park bench I often sat on, they were all gone. In their place was a stretch of blank concrete. I stopped, my heart pounding. I turned around, thinking maybe I had taken a wrong turn, but I hadn't. The sign at the corner clearly read, Maple Avenue. I felt a panic attack coming on, and I ran home, too terrified to investigate further. The next day, I decided to try again, bringing my Xanax just in case. But when I arrived, Maple Avenue was back to normal. The shops were there, bustling with life, and my favorite cafe was open. I asked the barista, a friendly girl named Emily, if they had been closed the day before. She looked at me, puzzled, and said, "No, we were open all weekend." Over the next few months, I started noticing small things missing from the street. A flower shop I frequented was suddenly gone, replaced by a vacant lot. The park bench where I always sat had vanished without a trace. I grew paranoid, avoiding Maple Avenue altogether. But even from a distance, I could see changes. The streetlights were different. The buildings looked slightly altered, and the people seemed distant. It was like the entire street was slowly being erased, piece by piece. I would often find myself standing on the corner, peering down the street, convinced I would see something I missed last time. But it was always the same, almost the same. I tried talking to others about it, but no one believed me. My friends thought I was joking, and even Emily at the cafe started to avoid me, probably thinking I was crazy. I couldn't blame her. I felt like I was losing my mind. Now, I don't go anywhere near Maple Avenue. I don't know what happened to that street, or why things keep disappearing. But every time I think about it, I get a sick feeling in my stomach. It's like the universe is playing a cruel joke, and I'm the only one who can see the punchline. A few months ago, I moved into a house with some of my college roommates. It's a quiet neighborhood, perfect for walking to and from classes. There was an old house along my route that always caught my eye. It was large and imposing, with ivy creeping up the walls and windows that seemed to watch you. I mentioned it to a few people, but nobody seemed to know what house I was talking about. One night, as I was walking home from class, I noticed lights on in the house. I stood on the sidewalk, staring in disbelief. I could see shadows moving behind the curtains, as if someone was inside. The next morning, the house was dark and empty again. I mentioned it to my roommates, and they just laughed. "You must have been seeing things," they said. But I knew what I had seen. Over the next few weeks, the lights came on sporadically, always at night. Sometimes I would hear faint music or see the flicker of a television through the windows. I became obsessed with the house, spending hours watching it, trying to catch a glimpse of whoever was inside. My roommates thought I was weird for obsessing about it, and refused to join me in investigating. One evening, I finally worked up the courage to investigate. I crossed the street and approached the front door. It was slightly ajar, creaking open with a push. The air inside was musty and cold, and the floorboards creaked under my weight. I called out, but there was no answer. I ventured further inside, my flashlight cutting through the darkness. The house was a time capsule. Furniture covered in dust, photographs on the walls, and even dishes in the sink. It was as if the occupants had left suddenly, without taking anything. I explored the first floor, but found nothing out of the ordinary. As I climbed the stairs, a sense of dread washed over me. The second floor was even more eerie, with children's toys scattered across the floor and a half-finished puzzle on a table. I entered a bedroom at the end of the hall. The bed was made, and there were clothes laid out, as if someone was planning to wear them. Suddenly, I heard a noise behind me. I turned, and my flashlight caught a glimpse of a figure disappearing into the hallway. I chased after it, but there was no one there. My heart was pounding, and I decided to leave, feeling more unnerved than ever. The next day, I tried to find the house again, but it was gone. In its place was a barren plot of land, overgrown with weeds. I checked Google Maps, but there was no record of any house ever being there. I couldn't believe it. I felt like I was losing my mind. Now, every time I walk that route, I look for the house. Sometimes, just for a moment, I catch a glimpse of it, standing tall and proud. It's like it's still there, trapped between reality and some other plane of existence. I don't know what I saw or why it vanished, but I can't shake the feeling that it's watching me, waiting for the right moment to reappear. My first job was at a Kmart in my hometown. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a good way to make some money after high school. One night, as we were closing up, we started having trouble with the security system. It kept alerting us that there was someone still in the building. I was with my coworker, Mike. We checked the aisles, the stockroom, even the bathrooms, but we couldn't find anyone. Finally, we went to the security room to check the cameras. There, on the screen, we saw a man standing in the electronics section. He was looking at the TVs, seemingly unaware of the cameras. We rushed over, but when we got there, he was gone. We searched the area thoroughly, but it was like he had vanished. We went back to the security room, and the cameras showed him walking towards the front of the store. We followed and found him standing by the exit, looking confused. "Excuse me, sir," Mike said. "The store is closed. How did you get in here?" The man turned to us, looking just as confused. "I don't know," he said. "I was just shopping, and then you guys showed up." We escorted him out and locked the doors behind him. Feeling relieved, we went back to finish our closing tasks. But just as we were about to leave, the security system alerted us again. There was someone in the building. We checked the cameras, and there he was, the same man, but in a different section of the store. We rushed over, but once again, he was gone. We found him near the fitting rooms, looking just as confused as before. "You need to leave," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "The store is closed." He looked at us, bewildered. "I thought I just left," he said. His confusion mirrored our own. We escorted him out again, and this time, we watched as he walked away from the building. Certain that we had seen the last of him, we went back inside. But as we finished locking up, the security system went off once more. We checked the cameras, and there he was again, in the toy section this time. This was getting ridiculous. We rushed to the toy section, but it was like a game of cat and mouse. We could never catch him, and he always seemed just out of reach. Each time, he looked just as confused and lost as before. Finally, we decided to stay in the security room and watch the cameras closely. We saw him walking through different sections of the store, but each time he disappeared from one camera, he would appear on another, as if he was warping from place to place. We called the police, explaining the bizarre situation. They arrived and searched the store thoroughly, but found no one. The cameras showed nothing unusual while they were there. The police left, chalking it up to a malfunctioning security system. But we knew what we had seen. The man, or whatever he was, had vanished into thin air. The next day, we reviewed the security footage again, but there was no evidence of the man's repeated appearances. It was like he had never been there. I haven't worked at KMart for years, but I still think about that night. I don't know who that man was, or how he kept getting back into the store. But every time I pass by that building, I get a chill. It's like there's something still in there, something that doesn't want to leave. It started as a normal Friday night. My friend Lily and I had plans to meet up at our favorite bar downtown, the Painted Lady. We'd been friends for years, and our Friday nights were a tradition. I arrived a bit early and grabbed a table near the back, where it was quieter. I texted Lily to let her know where I was, and she replied that she'd be there soon. Half an hour passed, and Lily still hadn't shown up. I called her, but she didn't answer. I started to get worried. This wasn't like her. I texted her again, asking if everything was okay, but there was no response. Just as I was about to leave, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Lily. "I'm here. Where are you?" I looked around the bar, but I didn't see her. I texted back. "I'm at the back, near the jukebox." She replied, "I don't see you. I'm at the bar." I stood up and walked to the bar, but Lily wasn't there. I texted her again, asking if she was at the right place. She replied with a photo of the bar, but it wasn't the same bar I was in. It looked similar, but there were subtle differences. The color of the walls, the arrangement of the tables, even the bartender was different. A chill ran down my spine. I texted her, "Where are you? This isn't right." She replied, "I'm at the Painted Lady. Where are you?" I was at the Painted Lady. I looked around, trying to spot anything that matched the photo she sent, but it was like we were in two different versions of the same place. I called her again, and this time she picked up. "Where are you?" she asked, sounding scared. "I'm at the bar," I said, "but it's not the same." We both described our surroundings, but nothing matched. It was like we were in parallel worlds, both at the Painted Lady, but not the same one. I decided to leave and go outside, hoping to see her on the street. I walked out and waited by the entrance, but there was no sign of her. I texted her again, "I'm outside. Come out." She replied, "I'm outside too. I don't see you." I started to panic. I walked up and down the street, calling her name, but there was no response. She kept texting me, saying she was right there, but we couldn't see each other. It was like she had vanished into thin air. After an hour of searching, I finally gave up and went home, hoping she would show up. Walking up to my apartment, there she was, waiting for me by the steps. We stared at each other, both equally confused. "I was at the Painted Lady," she said. "I didn't see you anywhere." "I was there too," I replied, "but it was like a different place." We talked for hours, trying to make sense of what had happened. It was like we had been in two different versions of the same reality, and no one believed us. Our friends thought we were playing a prank, and even the staff at the Painted Lady looked at us like we were crazy. Now, every time we go out, we stick close together, afraid of being separated again. We don't know what happened that night, or why it happened, but it changed everything. It's like the universe glitched, and we were caught in the middle. And every time I think about it, I get a sick feeling in my stomach. It's like reality isn't as solid as we think, and we could slip into another version at any moment.